6 months ago, in New Zealand, we found out life-changing news. We're going to be parents. Offshore sailing while pregnant might sound crazy, but Brooke was determined to keep going. Through exhaustion and morning sickness, it wasn't always pretty. I could only do so much to help, but if it meant scrubbing her breakfast off the side deck at sea, I was there. We made it to Minerva Reef after a full week at sea, then continued on for 4 more days to Fiji. As we island hopped our way through Fiji, the bump grew bigger and bigger with each nautical mile. In all, Brooke sailed over 2,000 nautical miles while pregnant, and mostly with a smile on her face. But the time quickly came for her to fly back to Florida where we would have the baby. We said the most difficult see you later as she left, and our friend Evan arrived to join me on board. Him and I were on a mission. Sail One Life 1,600 nautical miles in just a few weeks from Fiji to Vanuatu and then onward to Australia, where we would haul out One Life to await for Brooke, baby, and I to return as a sailing family. The morning after Brooke left, Evan and I pulled the anchor and motored out of Musket Cove. We were off to do some sailing in the Yasawas group and quickly get Evan up to speed on One Life.
Okay, so the prop, shut it down in forward gear.
Short? Okay.
So, and then after a few seconds, it'll feather pretty much right away.
Mm-hmm.
So then you could put this into neutral.
Yeah.
Or just leave it in forward. It doesn't really matter.
Nice,
It's
it's
feathered. Just when we start it back up, we try to remember to start it in neutral. Just gotta have it.
Yep.
As we reached our first anchorage, the weather quickly turned on us. Strong winds and rain pelted me in the face as I went forward to drop the hook. We tucked in behind the lee of an island and set our anchor far from the beach and fringing coral reef. To our dismay, the wind clocked 180 degrees, leaving us pinned against the lee shore for the night.
Good morning. Evan and I spent a rather nasty night on anchor. We were on a lee shore for a little bit because the wind clocked around as the storm came through. But this morning it's calm, still drizzling. It rained so much last night. Every leak in the boat came out. So Brooke, I think you picked a good day to leave. I don't think you would have enjoyed being here too much last night, but Brooke's on her flights back to Florida right now. And Evan and I are gonna bounce around for a couple days so I can show him the boat before we head back to Port Denaro and check out and get ready to leave for Vanuatu. But yeah, that was, I think, the worst night we've had in Fiji so far, and Brooke lucked out and missed it. So I know she wasn't too happy about leaving yesterday, and she wasn't feeling ready to leave the boat, but I think she'll be much more comfortable back in Florida in the condo once she gets there. So, all right, this dinghy is full of water up to my knees. It needs to be bailed. This morning I've got Evan pulling the anchor, which is normally my job, and Brooke's at the helm. But Evan and I are gonna switch off, and I wanna make sure that he knows how to do every task on the boat so that if something happens to me, he's not stuck wondering what should be done. So we're going to alternate all of the jobs and each do all of the tasks, even though Brooke and I normally do our own thing. And I should say that that's true of Brooke and I too, where Brooke and I have switched, so we both know how to do what the other person normally does, because it's really important that you don't have only one person that knows how to do something on the boat in case of emergency.
We set off for another day sail further north in the Yasawa chain. And while I went down below in rather rough conditions to make breakfast, back in Florida, Brooke was just arriving after some very long flights.
I felt like I've been on a plane for 2 days. I'm so sorry.
Our friend Amy picked her up at the airport and brought her to the condo we had rented, a far more comfortable place for the final months of pregnancy, rather than getting tossed around at sea on a sailboat.
Well, I've been here in Florida for a couple of days now, just getting settled into our condo in Cocoa Beach. But today I go for the reason I'm here, and that's to start seeing some doctors and figure out our birth plan for baby one life. Feels weird to be in an apartment with fresh fruit and veggies just at my fingertips and hot water and laundry and all of that, but it'll be nice for us to be here as we adjust to parenthood and life with a newborn before we fly back to One Life in Australia.
Well, Evan and I are back in Port Denarau, where Brooke and I were a few weeks ago. Evan and I have spent the last week and a half, 2 weeks, sailing around and getting Evan used to sailing on One Life before we set off for Vanuatu. But today is the day that we're going to go clear out of customs and set off for hopefully just a 3-day passage to Vanuatu to start making our way towards Australia. It was tough saying goodbye to Brooke when she left, and I haven't really chatted to the camera much because I haven't really wanted to talk about it, to be honest. It's been kind of weird not having Brooke on board sailing, but she's back in Florida and she's doing well, and I'll be back there with her in just another few weeks. It's been kind of an adjustment for me to remember all of the things on board that Brooke normally does. There's so many jobs that we each kind of just do without thinking about to keep the boat going, and I've really had to slow down and think about all of the things that Brooke normally does that I would forget to do, like closing seacocks before we sail or locking the helm after we anchor. And there's just hundreds and hundreds of little things like that. But Evan and I did a little sailing, got up to the Yasawa Island group, and we went for a hike, which had an absolutely stunning view over the anchorage and over the Yasawas. And we did some snorkeling and got to see quite a few things on a pretty awesome snorkeling pass. I got some pretty good footage. We'll roll that here for you. Yeah, we got one more.
The Yasawas were the perfect spot to get Evan accustomed to the boat. Besides sailing almost every day, we took time to stop and visit one of the villages for a cultural presentation. Another day, we hiked to the tallest point we could find, where we soaked in stunning views of the 20 volcanic islands that form this archipelago. A line of lush green peaks protrude from the deep blue surrounding waters, and coral reefs encircle almost all the land. The views underwater were just as impressive. Like we have seen throughout Fiji, the coral reef here is incredibly healthy. A thick layer of hard corals lines the seafloor in all sorts of varieties. schools of fish swam circles around us as we glided through narrow coral channels. After a warm-up in the shallows, we got some deeper free dives in too. Down here, we found a white-tipped reef shark and some amazing deep swim-through passages in the reef. But the sun did eventually set on our time in the Yasawas, so we headed back towards Port Denarau Marina and secured One Life to a mooring, where we could prepare for departing Fiji.
We're ready. Evan's feeling good about the boat, knows how to operate the sails. They're a little different. He's got a lot of experience sailing. He's got his own Pearson 424 back in Florida, and him and his wife Deborah have sailed down to the Caribbean and back all the way down to Grenada and back to Florida. So they've got a lot of blue water miles under their belt, and Evan knows what he's doing, so I'll be able to sleep easy and put him on watch right from the start here. The only things he had to learn was the differences about our boat, like how our boom furler works versus his mainsail, and how, where all of the switches are in our boat and all of the pumps and all of the mechanicals and all of that stuff I've gone through with him so that he knows where everything is, so that there's two of us that know how to operate everything when we're out at sea, which is very important. Yeah, we're gonna go, hopefully customs is at the office, and we'll clear out and get on our way today. It's 450 miles to the south end of Vanuatu. The weather is calling for pretty straight trade winds all the way there. So we'll be on a port tack, kind of a broad reach or a beam reach all the way there. It should be an easy sail, but the sea state might get pretty big later in the week, which we're expecting and hopefully we're prepared for. But I think it's calling for about 10-foot seas, maybe 12-foot seas when we're arriving into Vanuatu. All in all, though, we're ready. Fiji's been an awesome experience. Definitely top of the list for places that we've been to. The people here were super welcoming, and we've got so many amazing memories from here. But it is time to keep on moving, and maybe one day we'll be back here to show our child Fiji. That would be cool. All right, let's go.
With our laundry done, we packed the freezer full of meat pies, because when it's just two dudes on a boat, that's how you provision. We also made a quick run with the jerry cans to the fuel dock to replace the fuel that we had burned in the Yasawas. It's safest to leave for a long passage with a full tank, so we do this whenever possible. With the jerry cans transferred into One Life, we headed into the Customs and Immigration office for the somewhat painless checkout process. The last step is always to hoist and secure the dinghy and outboard, and just like that, our time in Fiji was over, and it was time to head out into the South Pacific Ocean once again. I released the line securing us to the mooring, and then finished routing our jacklines to the bow cleats.
Port Denarau Marina, this is sailing vessel One Life.
Station, Port Denarau Marina.
Yes, Port Denarau Marina, this is sailing vessel One Life. Just wanted to notify you that we have left mooring C02. Thank you.
Yeah, okay, roger that, Captain. Thank you.
As we motored out of the channel from Port Denarau, I readied the lines to hoist our mainsail. I figured I'd give Evan a break on the hard manual labor for now. As we sailed away out from behind the main island of Fiji, the wind and seas really picked up. It was already time to put a reef in the main, so Evan motored straight into the wind while I furled down the main. This can be a rough procedure in big seas, but it is so much safer now that we can do it entirely from the cockpit without needing to go forward to the mast. We rolled out the staysail and settled in for some serious offshore sailing. As we smashed through these waves, I must admit, I was actually a little glad that Brooke and our baby weren't along for the ride. There's something incredible that happens out at sea in big weather. Once the initial anxiety fades, time seems to slow to a crawl. The wind and motion is relentless. The waves never take a break, and One Life charges along just like she is supposed to, straight into the sunset. The second day brought us much more pleasant conditions. We swapped the staysail for a slightly reefed Genoa, and we left the reefs in the main just to play it on the safe side. This is what ocean sailing is all about. Blue water, clear skies, just us, and an occasional passing bird. With the sea state fairly tame, I stepped out to take down our Fiji courtesy flag. For the next few days, we are under the jurisdiction of only Neptune. It seems as if he offered us another stunning sunset, perhaps a small reward for enduring the furious ocean of the first day without complaining. And as the sun slipped below the horizon, a perfect gradient of color emerged to the sky. A view you can only experience by heading far out to sea.
Well, a little update from the end of day 3 of our 450-mile passage to Vanuatu. The sun is just setting and we've got 150 miles left to go to Tana Island, where we're hoping to check in. We're waiting for an email back from Customs in Vanuatu to confirm that we can check in there because it's not an official port of entry, but you can get special permission to enter there and Customs will come out and clear you in from a town that's about 2 hours away. The reason we want to go there is because there's an active volcano that you can go up to the top of and actually look inside of an erupting volcano, and that's something that I really want to do, so I'm hoping it works out. Yeah, the sail has been actually really nice. The first day was really rough. We had big wind coming out of Fiji, and I think the trade winds were kind of just compressing as they wrapped around the island there, so we actually saw sustained high 20s, gusting into the 30s for the night there and into the next day. Since then, it's calmed down. Yesterday was as peaceful as it gets out here, and same for today. We've had 10 to 15 knots on the port side, just behind the beam, and it's been really, really nice, easy sailing. So we've been sleeping well once we got past that first day and taking our turns doing 4-hour watches. We've basically kept the same system that Brooke and I usually use, and Evan is filling in for Brooke. So I'm doing the midnight till 4 a.m. watch, and Evan's doing the 4 hours on either side of that, and it's working out pretty well because we both get a night watch, and then I'm doing the sunset watch and he's doing the sunrise watch, so it splits it up pretty evenly, and we're both feeling pretty rested. He's down below sleeping right now. It's been kind of interesting sailing without Brooke here. Evan's great and he's experienced, and it's been super easy to get going and sail with him, and it's been awesome having him here. I'm so glad that he came out to do this with me because it's made everything so easy. It's just a little strange to not have Brooke here. It just feels very different to me. It feels like One Life is missing part of the boat. And yeah, she's back in Florida, doing well, seeing the doctors, and I can't wait to get there and be with her and have our baby. It's super exciting. Had a lot of time out here to really think about it on my watches, and I just can't wait to get back to Florida and welcome our baby into this world. It's going to be a big change. So I'm kind of soaking in these last couple sails before that, and yeah, they just don't feel quite the same without Brooke here, but I'm enjoying it nonetheless. I haven't been filming too much on this sail. It's been pretty uneventful, which is a good thing, and it doesn't make for great YouTube drama, but if the sail is uneventful, it means the boat's prepared and the crew is prepared and everything is going as it should. So I'm happy about that. I'll try to get a shot of the stars for you guys tonight so you can see just how beautiful the sky is out here when there's no moonlight. Catch you in the morning.
I had a nice long sleep between 4 a.m. and 8 a.m. while Evan was on watch. I awoke rather hungry and ambitious, so I braved the Rolly Galley to make us BLT sandwiches with fried eggs and cheese. A hot sandwich is the best way I know how to keep a crew happy. Just as was forecast, the sea state had begun to build, tossing One Life hard onto our starboard side when the biggest swells would roll through. I walked around the inside of the boat to double check that everything was still secure and nothing had come loose from its place in the previous days of sailing. We were actually passing the first of the Vanuatu islands, called Futuna, and although it is inhabited, it is lacking any semblance of a safe harbor or anchorage. As we passed the island, the wind really began to build, and the waves were regularly smashing over the bow of One Life. If you're wondering how a sail change decision is made on One Life, it goes something like this.
Time to switch to the staysail.
Yeah.
Might stand us up a little to get the center of effort a little lower.
Yeah. Agreed. How far out did you go?
Yeah, start these 50 degrees.
Cheers.
I can usually get it. There we go. Okay. This one in. Yeah. Ready when you are.
Yep.
With the staysail out instead of the Genoa, we do lose a bit of forward speed. But less speed means the bow gets stuffed into waves less frequently. The area of the staysail is also closer to the mast and lower to the deck than a reefed Genoa. This results in less heeling and a far more stable, comfortable ride. On these long ocean passages in big weather, the staysail is my favorite sail on the boat, and one I would never go without. As the sun set in front of us once more, The volcanic peaks of Tanna Island formed a welcome sight of a silhouette on the horizon. We were hustling to get in by dark to set the anchor inside of the protection of Port Resolution. We made it in with just a sliver of light left and hoisted the Q flag under complete darkness.
That sound, though. Cheers.
Cheers.
Whoa. Made it to Vanuatu.